So Dan, I wanted to ask you about starting out in your career. I know you were telling me a while back that you started out actually when you were in college. Tell us that story, how you got started in the industry back when you were in college.
Well, while I was in college, I was also working for a company called Dayton Progress, which is an unusual name. They were. I didn't realize it until I was in my 30s how ahead of their times they were.
Mm.
And what happened was I was an engineering major, but I minored in business. And I think I was a junior. And so they were looking for a hard chrome plater in Dayton, Ohio. And there was, I think, 2 or 3 that did hard chrome.
Mm-hmm.
But they just didn't use the scientific approach. And being an engineering major, I was very familiar with the engineering approach and paying attention to detail and how things work. And I was also taught that at Dayton Progress because they had all kinds of courses for employees. So that's important because it had a lot to do with my thinking at the time.
Right.
So so this class project was to write a business plan, and nobody in the class could think of anything to write about. So I said, we got this problem at work, and they can't find a good hard chrome plater. And so we decided to do a business plan on hard chrome plating.
No.
And so we went around, talked to various platers, and I soon found out why Dayton Progress didn't want to use anybody in Dayton. And
not up to the quality you needed, huh?
They didn't have the quality. And I had the other thing I had going for me, I was 20 years old and knew it all. So I thought I could easily fix this problem. And so we got a marketing major, a business major. I was an engineering major, and we got a couple others involved. And I think there were 6 of us. And we wrote this plan that I think it was about 70 pages long.
Wow.
And very detailed. And so I kept looking at this and kept looking at it. And I thought, I think I want to do this. So,
really? Okay. Mm-hmm.
So I started to do it. I bought my first plating tank was actually a Rubbermaid trash tub. And my first fire was a battery charger. So
yeah, kind of old school there. Yeah, is what you could find.
So anyway, I tinkered around with that for a while, and I think that was back in '68. And to give you some perspective, that was when the minimum wage was $1.80, and you could buy a Big Mac for, I think, around 50 cents.
Wow. Yeah, those were, yeah. So you actually implemented the plan that you all wrote, huh?
We implemented the plan. And, that's kind of significant because I think by the time I really got going in the business, I was 21, and now I'm 76.
Wow.
And those things all indicate that things change.
Right.
And when we were first in the business, I think after the first year, we were doing $1 million in sales, and there were like 5 or 6 of us.
Right. This is a business that's turned out to be Techmetals, correct?
No, it was Miami Precision Chrome.
Miami Precision Chrome. Okay.
Yep.
Wow, that's a lot of business to be doing back in that time. I mean, that's a lot.
It was. In fact, it grew so fast because all of us really paid attention to detail, and all of us I think all of us had at least. I think I had the least education. I actually had four or 5 years of college, but I was going part time at the end, and I eventually had to quit and never did get a degree because the business just was too consuming.
Too good, right?
So,
right.
Then what happened, and really a significant thing, I can't overemphasize the importance of a business plan. And I hope my son, I'm sure he's still doing one, doing it every year. But what I learned in the business plan is I also like to invest in stocks. And one of the major rules is be diversified.
Right.
Be diversified. So one of my first things in all my business plans, I wanted to be in at least 5 sectors. And one of the sectors, 2 of the big sectors back in the beginning was printing, press rollers.
Press roller, yeah.
And ball valves for the oil industry. And these weren't small ball valves. They weighed just around 9,600 pounds.
Wow. I think
the hole in them was, the big ones were like 42 inches. And again, this is important because being diversified here, 2 of our biggest sectors, printing and oil, went by the wayside after about 10 years.
Oh.
At one time. In that time, one of the things I've learned in the business plan is talk to your customers, talk to your competitors. When I say talk to your customers, one of the things that we really did a lot of is truck drivers that worked for the companies. We would talk to them and they'd tell you what was going on.
Oh, right.
I mean,
where things were headed, right?
That's right, because your competitors aren't always other platers. What happened to both of those industries was that printing eventually went to India. All the presses were made in India. They're not going to ship rollers to Dayton, Ohio. So platers over there started plating cylinders. And ball valves, most of those came from Texas.
Right.
And 9,600 pounds, they don't like shipping.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And so eventually, but there's one other thing that happened in between. We realized that there was a new technology that was threatening hard chrome. But we actually kind of used it to our advantage, and that was electroless nickel. Electroless nickel was fairly hard. Hard chrome's around 72 Rockwell, but you could get electroless nickel, approaching 60.
Right.
So
interesting.
You use the right formulations. And anyway, it was high phosphorus, and so it had really good corrosion resistance. And so we built our first strategic business unit. It's actually called Electroless Nickel of Dayton.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
Right
Separate company or?
Yeah, it was right across the street from our hard chrome shop.
Gotcha.
And then we started L&W grinding because a lot of the parts needed ground.
Right.
Especially the printing cylinders.
Right.
So the importance of the 5 business units from this conversation is immediately apparent. Those industries and those customers are gone. If we would have depended only on one and wouldn't have had 3 other sectors,
right,
we would have been gone.
Right. Wow. Interesting.
So Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say because you saw need in these areas and you just tried to fill it, right? I mean, those
That's
were
right.
things that, right?
But you know, one of the other things I learned, and you asked, I had a lot of good mentors.
Yes, yeah. Tell me about that. Yeah.
You know, I built a network of 7 companies that, and I actually didn't start it. A customer in New York started, a plater in New York started it. I guess, can I say their name?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Plate.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
The Stevensons.
Right.
And
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Milt and I became pretty good friends. Milt junior and senior.
Mm-hmm.
And my son Phil still talks a lot to Milt Jr.
Mm-hmm.
and the other Stevensons. But what that group did for us was, and what was unique about them was because of geography, they're way over in New York, and then 2 of them were in California, and 1 of them was in Detroit, but they were either in totally different niches.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't share any niche, except we did with Plate.
Right.
And a couple of them in California, but those were the others. None of the others, they were just completely, like Marsh Plating, they were mostly automotive.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Seatbelt buckles and stuff like that back then. And so we learned so many things from them, in little things. Like I remember going through Marsh Plating, and I said, "How do you keep this place so clean?" And he says, "You get what you accept, not what you expect." And so,
good advice there. Yes.
Yeah, and it took me a while to figure what that meant. In fact, he said it 3 or 4 times, and I finally had to say, "Hey, tell me exactly what that means." And so you couldn't do it today in today's market,
right.
But if an employee didn't clean up their area, they'd call them back to work and tell them, "Hey, you need to clean this up."
Right.
And,
right.
So that became a legend.
Right.
And,
set an expectation of what you expect out of them.
Right.
I mean, I guess it carries over to the quality that they're going to produce for you as well, right?
Absolutely.
They have to care. Yeah.
And thanks for saying that, because that really keys in on another core belief that I have, and that Techmetals still has today, is that some would say there's only that you can only give a customer 3 things: price, delivery, and quality.
Mm-hmm.
That you seldom can fulfill all 3.
Mm-hmm.
But I throw in another one, and that is nobody else can do it. Okay.
Right.
And
right.
And in all these years, and it's still carried on today, we have monthly meetings at Techmetals with each and every one of our employees. We go over our financials with them, and we make sure we're all headed in the same direction.
Right. Right.
And
right.
I'm really big on education.
Well, I was going to say that was one of the things I think I've learned, and I know Philip has continued this, which is you really spend a lot of time, and it's money, right? Time is money, right? You spend a lot of time and money making sure your team, your employees, everybody working was up to speed, trained, educated on a lot of this. I know you guys do a lot. You were doing a lot of in-house training. You have an area set up, right, for people to train
Yes.
and get better and learn that. So tell us about that. Why was that so important that you felt?
Well, you're only as good as your employees. You're only as good as your employees. And if they can't understand the financials unless they can balance a checkbook, if they can't. So we even had a class, Economics 101.
Okay.
Practical, how to read a balance sheet, how to balance your checkbook, why that's important. And so we also gave a lot of plating classes.
Yeah, I will say, because years ago, Dan, I remember writing a story about CEF, the Certified Electrofinishers, and Techmetals had the most CEFs than any other shop in the United States, job shops, right? I mean, you had Delta and American Airlines. I forget who was some of the other big corporations that were OEMs, but for job shops like you guys had the most, and that's expensive and it's time consuming to do that, and you have to have the right employees that want to do that, right? And so,
that's right, and you know, I want employees that are engaged, not to not in the classical sense, but engaged in what they're doing, and you've got to have challenging work for that to happen, and you know, to today. And one of the other things I learned in this networking group was one of them had an awards banquet. And now we've done it for 17 consecutive years. And we have like 400 people come.
Right.
And now we only have about 260 employees, but they bring their spouse.
Right.
And and we give all kinds of recognition: best team player, most helpful, and those people are chosen by the employees. And we had really a great plater, and he helped. We got a lot of patents, and one of them was on electrolytic nickel phosphorus. And so there is a niche, as an example, how we distinguish ourselves from our competition is in writing a business plan. We go out and interview a lot of our customers. And why did we get this job? Why didn't we get this job? And what do you like most about us? What do you like least? And we'd incorporate that in our business plans when we saw trends.
Right.
And so one of the things that differentiated us was size, capacity, weight, you know, just big parts.
Big parts, right, yeah.
So we could pay for that equipment because we could get a premium for those parts because nobody else could do them.
Right.
And one other thing I'll mention here is the bears make money, the bulls make money, and the pigs go broke. And very often we would get niches. And Philip does this to today. We plate parts that nobody else wants to plate or can plate. And
right.
So here we plated electroless nickel, and then we did hard chrome, but nobody did hard chrome over electroless nickel.
That's
so we
pretty
had
ingenious.
The two shops right across the street, and we formed, as part of our business plan, strategic business units. And so, like, we have the opposite division, we have nuclear division, we have let me think here.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's one of the things is that you all tried to go after things that really a lot of other players wouldn't want to attempt, right? And
Right.
I kind of get the feeling from you all there that you all enjoyed that challenge too. You enjoyed solving those problems, right?
That is
it made
how
it interesting.
Employees engaged. You know, we're working on a job right now that I can't tell you about. Okay, but I'm telling you, these people are engaged. It's like science fiction,
right?
This project, and
right.
The shields and the intricacy of how these parts get plated, and these are giant parts,
right?
And the detail. I think Techmetals has like 7 engineers.
Right. Yeah, like I said, you've got some very qualified people there. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. You need to have the smartest person in the room with
That's
you, right?
right.
I mean,
That's right. So,
yeah.
So back to, you can only have these 3 things, but I added the 4th, the hard parts.
Right.
The advantage of that is that helps you get people engaged, along with giving your employees recognition.
Right.
Like at the awards banquets. And I mean, we make them a big deal. It's like a formal, it's like a wedding reception. Okay.
Right. Nothing cheap of just handing some things out. It's an event, right? I understand. I've heard about it. Yeah.
So, and we give it a personal touch. Like, at our last one, a couple of people maybe had a little bit too much to drink. Okay. So my wife and I, we drove two couples home.
There you go. You offer that service too.
Yeah. But and I still go back into the shop, maybe only once a week, but I talk to the employees and I tell Philip from my perspective what's going on, and I really get a self-satisfaction out of that. Like I had an employee the other day ask me, well, how do I get ahead here at Techmetals? And I wanted to say to you before it went through my mind, I have one course that's near and dear to me, and it's Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And that course, and I was talking to our HR director just yesterday, and she's getting certified. And she had the course when she worked someplace else. And anyway, this is so helpful to the employees. And they don't forget that. And to take this course on the outside is like a $7,000 course. And we teach it right at Techmetals. And I would say well over half of our employees have had it.
Yeah. Probably great. Yeah, I was going to say great habits. And again, it's what you said before. It's what you expect. It's what you accept, right? You're willing to accept and not just expect with that, but yeah.
It builds a culture.
Right. Exactly.
And our culture is actually wrapped around the 7 habits.
Right. Having it repeated every day, and you get everybody doing it. It seems like it kind of puts everybody in so this is what, 50 some years you've been doing this, right?
55, 57, something like that.
Right. And, like I said, it kind of, that story you told about, realizing there's a need for this industry and everything, looking back, it sounds like your career, you've really enjoyed that choice you made to go into this. And it really has been challenging for you and fun as well. Like I said, getting some really sophisticated, neat parts to do, really, I think, kind of get you up and fired up in the morning when you can go in and start working on those type of things, right?
You really said it. In fact, when I was talking to our HR gal, we have, I think, 6 or 7 people in our HR department that helps us maintain all the courses and the education and everything. She said that this is the first place she's been to in years that she just can't wait to get up in the morning to go into work. And
a lot of things going on, right? A lot of things. It's not mundane.
As I tell everybody, when I talk to them, if you're truly engaged, you'll never work another day in your life because it isn't work. You're engaged. You enjoy it. So that's why I think the tough jobs are so important.